morning and welcome to Rising. Happy Friday. I'm Amber Duke, joined by Niall Stanage at the desk today. Niall, good to be back with you.
Good to see you. Always
Absolutely.
Great to have you here on a Friday, Amber. Always a pleasure.
I know, it's like a nice little signal before the weekend.
Exactly. It's getting people into that weekend mood with a bit of debate.
Exactly. But we have a lot of news to cover today, of course, with the transition team. Just hours after Matt Gaetz withdrew himself for Attorney General, President-elect Donald Trump named a new candidate, one of his steadfast allies, Pam Bondi. Trump made the announcement on Truth Social, posting, quote, "For too long, the partisan Department of Justice has been weaponized against me and other Republicans. Not anymore. Pam will refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. I have known Pam for many years. She is smart and tough and is an America First fighter who will do a terrific job as Attorney General." Bondi served as a senior advisor on his first impeachment defense team. She was also among a group of Republicans who showed up to support Trump in his New York hush money criminal trial. Her Trump-proof credentials extend to her tenure as AG for Florida, where she was the chief challenger of various Obama-era policies like the Affordable Care Act. She also defended the state's ban on same-sex marriage.
Bondi is already getting the GOP's blessing on Capitol Hill. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham posted on X, quote, "Picking Pam Bondi for Attorney General is a grand slam, touchdown, hole-in-one, ace, hat-trick, slam dunk, Olympic gold medal pick." So he probably likes her. He went on, "She will be confirmed quickly because she deserves to be confirmed quickly." GOP Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt posted, quote, "Congrats to my friend Pam Bondi. She'll be an incredible Attorney General. Great choice, President Trump." So far, no Democrats have spoken out on her behalf, but Bondi will likely face smooth sailing on account of that Republican support in the Senate. But then there's the next problem, Pete Hegseth as Defense Secretary. The former Fox News host was nominated last week, but serious allegations of sexual abuse could upend his nomination. Here's GOP North Dakota Senator Kevin Cramer on Hegseth.
Pretty big problem given that we have a sexual assault problem in our military, that a number of us, and certainly the champions being Kirsten Gillibrand and Joni Ernst, but I've been on board with them and in support of the legislation to deal with it since the chain of command was not. I'm not going to prejudge them, but it's a pretty concerning accusation.
Republican from North Carolina Tom Tillis and Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal also weighed in on the pick.
Let's see the full report. Let's understand the context and also understand from the prosecutor who chose not to move forward with it, why.
Not just about the vetting process in particular. Don't you think the Trump team should have done a better vetting job?
Well, the more you do up front, the less you have to do on the back end.
I think this nomination is doomed. It should never have been made. It was never vetted.
Hegseth met with senators Thursday. He was surrounded by reporters where he said this.
President of the United States for this amazing, humbling opportunity to be nominated to lead the Department of Defense. It's an incredible opportunity that I do not take lightly. I just want to thank the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, who spent the morning with me, meeting with senators of the United States. We take very seriously the advice and consent role that the U.S. Senate has. We look forward to engaging in that process. We take absolutely nothing for granted, and we welcome the opportunity to talk to any senator that wants to talk to us.
Did you sexually assault a woman in Monterey, California?
I have, as far as the media is concerned, I'll keep this very simple. The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much.
How do you address concerns about your lack of Pentagon experience? Do you believe that you should testify?
So, quite a lot to talk about here, Amber. We could start with Pete Hegseth, perhaps, who faces this allegation of sexual assault. There were no charges pressed in that matter. He denies any wrongdoing. His lawyer implies that essentially the woman who is accusing him was seeking to cover up a consensual encounter from her husband. She's married. That said, obviously it comes in the light of the Matt Gaetz matter. That is, those should be disconnected as a political reality. They're probably connected to in some shape or form. And now we have police reports into the Hegseth matter becoming public. It's not a great look, certainly, but I mean, how damaging do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't think it will be super damaging just based on the details that are in the report. Obviously, it's an unnecessary and unwanted distraction for the Republicans, and certainly for Trump, who is making unconventional picks and doesn't want the unconventional picks to be because of whatever personal compromise might be lobbied against them, as opposed to the fact that they maybe are bringing in creative ideas for how to run their departments. But again, I think the details in the report, when you actually read it, are not that damaging. The woman did wait 4 days to go to get a rape kit. It doesn't say in the report what the results were of that rape kit, but we do know that the police declined to pursue the case. There was a surveillance video that they found of them talking outside by the pool and her kind of leading him by the arm. Witnesses saying that she seemed like she was kind of stable and fine, whereas Pete Hegseth was the one that was actually quite intoxicated. So it almost suggests to me that she could have been the aggressor in the situation, and then, as you said, maybe had regrets. I mean, he talked about in his encounter with the police, talking about the incident, that she seemed immediately regretful of the incident, was planning on telling her husband that she had fallen asleep in one of her friend's hotel rooms, and then 4 days later decided to go accuse him of sexual assault. So I just don't think the details really lend themselves to the reaction from some of those senators.
Yeah, you know, I don't love he said, she said stories about something so serious,
Right.
because then we from the outside are looking at things and sort of making our own judgments, which frankly may or may not be true. She does, I believe, claim that she said no during whatever took place, and she appears to suggest that there may have been something slipped in her drink. Now, we don't know really any of the truth of any of this. All we know is that the police declined to prosecute. I noticed that Hegseth's attorney is saying the police viewed it as a false allegation. That's not explicitly stated in the report, and obviously there is a spectrum between we don't fancy our chances of getting a conviction on this, and this is a false allegation. Those two things are not necessarily the same thing. I do wonder, is there some political damage by virtue of these nominees getting bogged down in these stories when Trump himself has the history of having been found liable for sexual abuse in the civil trial with E. Jean Carroll, and when it brings up the general topic of treatment of women?
No, I don't really think so. I mean, there were a lot of issues with the E. Jean Carroll trial as well. I mean, start with the fact that she claimed that she still had the dress that she was wearing on the day, and the dress wasn't even manufactured until years after. There were some weird comments she made about people finding rape sexy and general inconsistencies in her story, where I was actually very surprised that that trial ended the way that it did because of those issues. But
sorry, not to.
Yeah,
but I
no,
mean,
please.
it did end in a jury of regular American jury members finding the former president liable.
And it was a really weird determination that they made, because they said that they found him liable of sexual abuse of some kind, but not of the rape, which was her chief complaint. So yeah, I mean, that case to me was just bizarre all around.
Pam Bondi, the supplanting person following Matt Gaetz's withdrawal, clearly another Trump loyalist, served as Florida Attorney General for some time. There are some ethical questions around her that we'll get to in a second, but what did you think of that choice?
I think it's a fine choice. I mean, she seems like someone who has generally a similar posture towards the Department of Justice as Matt Gaetz, but obviously doesn't have this ethics investigation, has actually served in an attorney general position at the state level, and has a lot of prosecutorial experience and experience arguing in front of high courts. So I think people are right to be excited about the pick. I don't know as much, though, I will say, about her underlying ideology in terms of how aligned is she with America First movement, how much does she want to sort of blow up the DOJ as Matt Gaetz did. Those things I'm not sure about.
You don't think that she's as much... People who defended Gaetz defended him on the grounds that he was a disruptor.
I don't think she's as much of a disruptor. She'd probably be like 50% of the way to Gaetz if we're like on a spectrum of like Merrick Garland to Matt Gaetz. She's probably like somewhere in the middle.
Half disrupting. So look, as I'm sitting in the non-conservative seat, I better make the case against Pam Bondi, which includes the fact that there were questions asked back in 2013 whenever several states were investigating Trump University for fraud, and she was the Attorney General of Florida at the time. Her office was looking at joining that case, and there was a $25,000 contribution from, he wasn't yet president, of course, from Donald Trump to her super PAC, after which she decided that her office would not join the case against Trump University. To your point separately about her being a disruptor, after she left as Attorney General, she worked as a lobbyist and represented the interests of places like Amazon, General Motors and Uber, and she was also a registered lobbyist for the nation of Qatar.
Yeah, so I'd love to jump in here because one of the concerns that I do have is about her antitrust, her position on antitrust. And that background you're talking about obviously raises red flags for how she might approach corporations and corporate power. And that was one of the complaints I saw from progressives on social media about the pick too. So I'd love to get your further take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, anytime there's always this suspicion that people who join up with Trump as disruptors, to use our phrase of the day, are using it as a sort of flag of convenience to cover up what are completely standard business interests. And just the fact that she did work as a lobbyist of, the type of person of whom the swamp was supposed to be getting drained last time around, and I don't think that causes Trump or anyone else any pause at all. I think that is, that seems to cut against the message or suggest there's a certain amount of opportunism going on in those sort of claims, I think.
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, we will have a lot more topics to talk about on Rising right after this. Stay with us.